Let's go ahead and get started. And with that, I call this Senate meeting number 5 to order. Welcome everybody and happy start of your spring semester. I guess we're a few weeks in now. Happy 2021. I hope that your semester is going smoothly and is productive so far. Before we jump right into the agenda, I do want to go around to the campuses just to do a quick sound check, make sure that it's working with our campus assembly presidents. Let's start with the downtown campus. Ann Sebrin.
Hi, this is Ann representing the downtown faculty. Welcome, everybody.
All right, let's go next to the Polytechnic campus with Penny Ann Dolan.
Yes, hi, from the Poly campus.
All right, thanks, Penny. Greg Stone at the Tempe campus.
Yeah, Greg Stone, and I'm technically at the Tempe campus, but at home, so.
All right. And then lastly, Eduardo Pagan at the West campus.
I'm Eduardo Pagan, West campus.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. At this time, we will do our quorum calculation. Maria, can you please get the quorum calculation up? The quorum question?
Should be on the screen now.
Thank you.
Please select the campus you represent.
And co-hosts, please keep it open until our Senate Secretary has a moment to record the responses. And while Maria is preparing the next quorum, the quorum question and doing the calculations, I'm going to ask all of the senators to please go to the chat and sign in on the attendance sheet that corresponds with your campus. Please take a moment to do so.
We're going to move on to the triangulation question, and this one reads, university governance requires communication and collaboration among faculty, staff, students, and administration. This is the introduction of the preamble to the United States Constitution, University Senate Constitution, or Arizona State Constitution.
It's an excellent question and very timely, since this is the year that we are reviewing our Constitution and bylaws. I hope I didn't just give away the answer.
No cheating.
Preamble's a hint too.
Okay, we're gonna 5 more seconds. A couple of you haven't voted yet. Ending the poll. And yes, 85% of you got it right. University Senate Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. All right, we will take action on the minutes from the November 23rd, 2020 Senate meeting. So the minutes for the last meeting have been distributed and are available on the University Senate website. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved as distributed. We will now move on to the UAC Chair's report. I will keep my remarks brief. I hope you have all received the notification that the Academic Assembly has been rescheduled for Tuesday, February 9th. You should have all received the new invitation. And please check with your campuses and the faculty in your units to ensure that they have also received the new invitation. And I encourage all of you to attend the assembly, which will start promptly at 3:30 on Tuesday, February 9th. The second item that I would like to report is that I was able to view the Arizona Board of Regents Academic Affairs and Educational Attainment Committee meeting, which took place last week on January 28th. Of note was a discussion of ASU's institutional university metrics. over the past year, ABOR has engaged with the universities to update and revise the current metric framework. The new metric framework replaces the current metrics with enterprise-wide university metrics, with strategic forecasts, and institutional university metrics. The institutional university metrics are intended to reflect the distinct missions of each of Arizona's 3 public universities. This past winter, the board office worked with ASU to propose a set of institutional university metrics that support ASU's mission and implement the board's vision for the university's future. So ASU Senior VP and University Planner, Mr. Richard Stanley, presented 3 proposed ASU institutional university metrics, which I will summarize as 3 goals. And these are located on the ABOR website under the Academic Affairs and Educational Attainment Committee board book. So the first goal is to establish the Ira A. Fulton School of Engineering as among the top engineering schools in the US. The second goal being to further develop ASU as an engine of social mobility by A, ensuring that graduate demographics reflect Arizona's socioeconomic diversity, and B, ensuring that ASU meets the needs of all learners through personalized, accessible, and adaptable pathways. And the third goal being to establish ASU as a leading global center for interdisciplinary research, discovery, and development. Some potential metrics for each of these goals were provided. In the interest of time, I will not go through them, but again, I can direct you to the ABOR website, and we will provide a link on the University Senate website to the Academic Affairs and Educational Attainment Committee notes. And lastly, I would like to bring attention to our Senator Spotlight program. This month's Senator Spotlight is Senator Scott Day from the Tempe campus. He represents the Department of Management and Entrepreneurship at the W.P. Carey School of Business. Hello, Senator Day. I see you waving over there. He has served in the University Senate for 2 years and has been at ASU for 4.5 years. Prior to that, he was at City College of San Francisco. And at ASU, in his academic unit, he is currently developing a leadership course titled Being a Leader that prepares students for leadership opportunities in a business environment. And the course is going to be taught in a laboratory type setting where students will work with faculty to create direct access to the ways of being developed into leadership opportunities. And Mr. Scott Day is in his second year as part of the Student Faculty Policy Committee, and this year he serves as chair of the committee. And thank you for your service on that committee and for chairing that committee. They've been working very diligently this academic year, and he noted that he's very proud that we were able to bring the faculty and students together for National Voting Day. If you recall, that resolution was passed last spring. And we also brought it back to the Senate just before National Voting Day. The committee is currently working on solving food insecurity issues on all 4 campuses, coordinating efforts with the Arizona Board of Regents, Student Regents Working Group, to address housing and food insecurity, and the U of A and NAU. So that is very important work that Mr. Day and his committee is undertaking. So thank you again for your service, and we appreciate what you're doing for the Senate and for the committee. And that concludes the UAC Chair's report. And now I will turn it over to University Provost, Dr. Mark Searle. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, Dr. Searle.
Good afternoon, Samin, and all the senators. I join in welcoming you back. And as we're approaching almost a year of pandemic life, I want to say how impressed I've been with all my colleagues and how we have managed this and how well we've done. And notwithstanding all of our struggles and issues that we're dealing with, it's been nothing short of remarkable. So I thank you all for that dedication. It's really been something that we can all share pride in. Dr. Nancy Gonzalez would be here, but as the next provost of the university, but unfortunately Nancy is scheduled to teach at this time. So she is currently in class teaching. So she's going to try and make accommodations to be here at least once before the semester is out. And just for a lot of you to know, Nancy has been working in our office, in the provost's office, pretty much since the beginning of the new year, and is slowly transitioning into the role, and it'll allow us to have a smoother transition as we move forward and as I step away at the end of June. One of the things that's perhaps on the minds of many is vaccines. This is a problem nationally, as I know you're all paying attention, the lack of vaccine volume. I don't know what it is this week, but because the Biden administration has promised to increase the volume of vaccines coming to the individual states, but up until this week, Arizona had been receiving only 83,000 vaccines a week. So, you know, when you've got 7.5 million people in the state, and that's really not going to do it in a very quick way, but that's been part of everybody's frustration. Nonetheless, we have been the people running the logistics and operations out at the State Farm Stadium site for the vaccine. About to announce, or it was announced today, that the Phoenix Municipal Stadium will be a site for vaccine. We'll be running that as well. And as of a couple of weeks ago, the state is now giving us vaccine to deliver ourselves to our employees. And right now that has been 1,000 doses a week. So again, not nearly enough, but a start. And we have been concentrating on folks who are older than 65 and those who have been here on campus. I think it's 75% of the time in the last 3 weeks or so, something like that, or 4 weeks. And they use the daily health report where people indicate whether they're going to be on campus or not as a way to assess that. But we continue to advocate for more vaccine and to do anything we can to speed up the process. And we will continue to communicate as we get better information and more information. And I know it's trying all of our patients, for those of you trying to get appointments to get a vaccine, but we are working on it. And to some credit, I guess, the initial move was that faculty would not be included in the teacher category. And the governor agreed that that was wrong and included the faculty in that category. So we're still having a little bit of tension with the county, particularly the Goodyear site seems to think that they're not supposed to do faculty. We're working on that as well, but all of the other sites, we're not reporting any difficulties in people going and getting their vaccines. So we're continuing to do testing, as we always have. I just actually got some very good news about testing. The random sample data for campus students is running just over 2%. For off-campus is just over 1%, and for employees is 0.7%. So it seems that within our university community, there is much greater control over the vaccine and adherence to good health practices to maintain as much control as possible. So that's encouraging news. The statewide data, while still high, has dropped considerably, and we can only hope that that trend continues so that we all might get this under better control. Summer school is about to launch, and we'll be getting an announcement out shortly about how we're going to work that with sync and things like that. I'm not expecting there'll be dramatic change for summer, but I haven't had a chance to talk to the president yet, and so hopefully we'll do that tonight. And so we will get information out about that. The same for fall of 21. I think we're hoping that by fall of 21, we have opportunity to try and resume some more normalized operations, but everything will be subject to what's going on with the vaccine distribution, how far that gets, how many people have it, will students be vaccinated, et cetera. So we'll be learning more as we go along and making appropriate announcemements. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention was I believe Phil is supposed to speak today, Phil Regier, the Dean of ASU Online. And I thought it would be an appropriate time to remind everybody, since this question comes up regularly, that the tuition that's charged to online students goes into the same pot as tuition charged to campus immersion students. And so there is no tuition that is a windfall that's going to ASU Online or to Ed Plus. It all goes to the general fund of the university, and the university then distributes it. And in Ed Plus's case, they get a budget just like any other administrative unit of the university, including my office. And so the funding that does come in from tuition, we then allocate, not Ed Plus. The university allocates back to the units that's currently based on about $100 per student per credit hour. And that was an increase from a couple of years ago when it was about $83 per student per credit hour. And we're continuing to fund enrollment growth and strategic hiring. Indeed, this year, unlike most universities, ASU has about 155 tenure track searches underway. And so we continue to look to recruit faculty to this institution. And there are many more non-tenure track positions. I just don't have the number handy at my disposal. But so we continue to hire, we continue to move forward. We believe that there will be lots of opportunities for the institution going forward, and we look forward to a very bright future. And I'm confident that our new leadership with Dr. Gonzalez will provide that kind of foundation to move us forward. So I think that's all I've got today, Samin.
Thank you very much, Provost Searle. I appreciate that. And hopefully, Provost Pro Tem Dr. Gonzalez will be able to join us at one of our Senate meetings during this academic year. But I appreciate that report. I will turn it over to each of our campus presidents to see if there are any questions coming in from the campuses. Let's start with Ann Sebrin at the downtown campus. Ann, are there any questions for Provost Searle?
No questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Let's move next to the Polytechnic campus. Are there any questions?
No questions at this time.
Okay, great. Greg, are there any questions from the Tempe campus?
We had one, but the provost answered it. So
Okay, very good. No more questions from Tempe? All right, let's move next to the West campus. Eduardo, are there any questions for Provost Searle?
No, we have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, Provost Searle, I appreciate your time this afternoon, and thank you for that informational report. We will look forward to hearing some confirmation on what our summer will look like. As you mentioned, most likely will be similar to what we're having this spring, and pending vaccine rollout, I guess, will be one of the primary kind of dictators of what our fall 2021 semester will look like.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good day. All right, next I would like to invite our special guest, Dr. Phil Regier, who is the University Dean for Educational Initiatives and the CEO of Ed Plus. I've invited him to join us to talk with us a little bit about ASU Online. As we are all aware, ASU Online has been just growing by leaps and bounds. With the enrollment surges that we've experienced since last spring that have really been ongoing, as well as the growth of program offerings through ASU Online. Dr. Regier, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Of course. Mark, do you want to level set a bit, or have you already level set? Shall I just go ahead?
I already did.
Okay. Okay, well, good. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss ASU Online briefly with the Senate. What I thought I'd do and kind of the agenda I was given is I'm just going to talk for a few minutes, probably 5 to 10 minutes, about what we're doing and about our growth. And then I will make myself available for any Q&A that you might have or anything that shows up in the chat. So let me get started. First off, as you probably understand, ASU Online is an important part of the charter. We view what we do in ASU Online as expanding access to education for people who would not otherwise have access to a very high quality, research one driven online teaching and learning experience and degree programming. We also view us as, in terms of the third part of the charter, we are fundamentally responsible and we are advancing the fundamental responsibility for the communities that we serve. The US has been falling behind other developed countries in terms of degree completion. And if we don't have initiatives like ASU Online that reach out to a previously underserved or very underserved audience, we're going to continue to fall behind. And so we're very consistent with the charter in ASU Online, and we're proud of that. In terms of the learning realms, by now, hopefully you have all seen President Crow's discussion of learning realms on a couple of different occasions. ASU Online is clearly in realm 2. Realm 1 is on campus, campus immersion, and now there's 1A, which is on campus, and 1B, which is a sync modality for on-campus students. But realm 2 is basically asynchronous online teaching and learning. And that's the realm that ASU Online really occupies. I'm going to provide a lot of information now, kind of quantitative information, and you may be interested in it, but I want to emphasize a few things. First off, we continue to have very robust growth, as you mentioned at the beginning, Professor Levinson. We have very robust growth. 2 years ago, we had a shade under 50, we served just a shade under 55,000 total online students. In 2020, the academic year, the fiscal year rather, we served a little under 65,000. This year, we'll serve a little over 80,000 students. At any given time, for example, right now, we have just about 50,000 students registered for the Spring A session. We have more than 50,000 registered though, because we are already enrolling new students and students who did not register but were previously registered in Spring B. In terms of the number of programs, and again, the senators from every college, from many of the academic units across the university. I remember when we started this 11 years ago, we had 4 programs. We have, as of today, 261 programs. When we launch in August, we'll have 300 programs. We've grown over 100 programs in about the past 18 months. And we have continued to launch what I would refer to as signature programs. And all I mean by that are programs that nobody else anywhere in the country can or has launched. And they show our capacity and our desire to reach out to students. And so, for example, we launched biochemistry a couple of years ago. There is no other reputable university that has a biochemistry program. We have other STEM-related programs like astronomy and physics. We'll be launching mechanical engineering. We have some of the only MFA programs in the country that are being offered right now, and we'll continue to expand those going forward. One question we often get from people is, how come a program in my school was turned down? And one thing I will say is that we do go through a process working very closely with the provost's office to determine what we have the capacity to deliver. And the most important thing for us in determining programs is student demand. And so we do focus on programs that we think will be higher demand programs. But I want to make clear that simply because a program has not been approved to go online, for example, for next August, that does not mean that it won't be approved at some later date when we have more capacity to build the programs. And so that's the number of students and number of programs, but the real finish line for us, to be very clear, is the number of students who graduate with degrees. That's incredibly important to us. And again, we're showing very good growth. 2 years ago, we graduated about 7,400 students in calendar year 2018. In 2020, we graduated over 11,000 students. And so that's very close to a 50% increase in graduation in just 2 years. And that's the most important thing to us. Retaining and graduating these students is very important, because I want you to remind everyone that that typical ASU online student at the undergraduate level is very different than the typical ASU on-campus student. For example, in the average age of the ASU online students, undergraduates, is 29.1 years old. The average age of the immersion students is, no surprise, 21 years old. And so these are students who have started and stopped and started and stopped. They're part of the roughly 50% of all students in the US who begin post-secondary education, and 6 years after that beginning, they have nothing to show for it except debt. No degree, no certification. What they have is debt only. And so what we're trying to do, and they are stuck in their lives. And so what we're trying to do, again, is expand access to those students to our very high quality educational programs and get them through the final time. And just as a point of reference, the average number, 96% of our students are transfer students. The average number of transcripts that they are transferring into ASU is 3 to 4 on average, meaning they have gone to 3 to 4 other institutions before they came to ASU. And remember, that's the average, meaning in some cases it's 6 or 7 and they still haven't graduated. So what we want to do is make them successful. Arizona and California are virtually tied in terms of the percentage of students from those two states. And it's right at about 21% from both states. After that, there's a big drop off, but the next largest state is Texas and Washington. Texas, we get about 7% of our students from. Washington, about 5% of our students. And then we have 3% or less from another 42 states. So it's a very distributed population geographically. A plurality of the students come from Arizona and California, but at this point, not even a majority. I want to point out, by the way, you've no doubt heard about the Starbucks College Achievement Plan, the Uber Plan. We do get a large number of students from company partnerships like that. And I want to also recognize the fact that those corporate partnerships benefit Arizona as well. There are literally thousands of students from Arizona who are working in companies with which we have partnerships. Places like Discount Tire, Carvana, which we just launched, a very successful operation that we have with Desert Financial. And so this isn't just about getting students from all over the country. It really does, and those corporate partnerships really have focused in terms of the number of companies on Arizona companies. I just want to point out a couple of more things, and then I'll turn it over for Q&A. We have a group of, every student who comes into ASU Online is assigned what we refer to as a success coach. And the reason for that success coach is we want to provide the type of underlying support and guidance that these students need that they would have if they were at a very small university, or if they were fourth generation college students with generations of people above them who understood about universities, rather than in many cases first generation college students. The role of the success coach is not an academic advisor. It is to serve as a motivator, to help them with work-life balance, and to reach out to them at times when they may be close to dropping classes. So for example, we reach out to students on a regular basis during times of natural disaster and catastrophe. We reach out to students, for example, when there are wildfires in California, or when California Gas and Electric is turning off power, because we know that they will not have internet access when that occurs. And when that occurs, the first instinct of these students is, I've got to drop all my classes. And what we encourage them to do is stay in the classes, and we work with the professors to give them maybe an extra week or an extra time on the assignment or something like that. Because if they don't have that type of support, they don't know what to do, and they tend to drop out. The success coaches have been unbelievably effective in helping us retain students at a higher rate than any other online program in the country. And then the last point I want to make is, remember when I said our students are very different. One way in which they're different is they take planned semesters off, planned sessions off, planned semesters, and even in some cases, a year or longer. For example, if there's going to be a birth in the family, we'll find that they may leave for 18 months and then come back. And so last year, the provost changed a particular rule that we had on the books at ASU that said, if you leave for longer than a year, if you are not continuously enrolled, or you haven't enrolled for at least a year, when you come back, you have to reapply to ASU. And the provost said, that doesn't make sense for online students. We're going to make that a 3-year period. And so we did that. Our enrollment counselors have reached out to students who have been away from ASU for longer than a year. And within the past year, since that change was made, we've enrolled 1,500 students who had been away, re-enrolled, I should say, 1,500 students who had been away between 1 and 3 years. And again, that's not because they're lazy. It's not because they're dropouts. It's because these are adults with life circumstances that require them to take some time out from their studies. And so anyway, that's kind of an overview of the students. It's an overview of our growth, the programs, et cetera. I'll turn it over to you, Professor Levinson, and pleased to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Regier, for providing that information. It was really a plethora of information. Just to follow up on the last comment that you made, which I think is really wonderful, to extend that time period from 1 to 3 years. Do you have any indication of how many or what % of those students perhaps are active military or spouses of active military? Because I teach in online programs, and I find that with my active military students, or the spouses of active military, that sometimes when they're in the middle of moving from base to base is when kind of education goes to the back burner.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. The other thing that happens with active duty military, for example, if they're on a submarine, they may find out the day before that they will be incommunicado for 2 weeks. They're going to be under the surface for 2 weeks. They have no internet access or other communication. And so that occurs. And when that occurs, again, the success coaches have been very helpful in making sure that we have appropriate accommodation for the military. Right now, only about 4 or 5% of our students are active duty military, but we do have a lot of veterans as well. I suspect, I don't have the data in front of me, but I'm pretty certain that over half of the active duty and veterans that are students at the university are in ASU Online. And that's a really interesting group because they come with this amazing set of experiences. So for example, when we opened up the electrical engineering program, about 1/3 of the students in the first tranche were out of the military, and they had all kinds of knowledge about engineering and electrical engineering in particular that they had learned in the military, but they didn't have the degree that they needed to advance themselves in the private sector. And so again, it's very different than teaching 20-year-olds with little experience. These are, people who are coming in with 10 or 12 or 14 years of experience. Very, very different group.
Completely agree. With that, I will turn it over to our campus presidents to see if there are any questions. We'll start with Ann Sebren at the downtown campus.
Yes, we have a question from Senator Mickey Hernser.
Senator Hernser, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you.
Hello.
Okay, so I happen to teach for a couple online programs in the College of Health Solutions, and I'm wondering what kinds of communications are offered from EdPlus as a unit to the faculty who teach in these online programs. Not necessarily resources on how to be better online teachers or how to succeed in that world with students, but more so that we are also part of the team. For example, we hear from our dean at the college often about the conditions of working in our immersion settings and what's going on with immersion students and enrollment. And we do get updates from EdPlus, but it also maybe I'm missing out on something, but it feels like we're not necessarily a part of the team at EdPlus. However, I have the best students in the world from EdPlus. So is there a plan to communicate more with faculty, maybe in a partnership kind of way, who teach in the online programs, or do we just kind of stay in our academic immersion units?
No, thanks for the question, Senator Unser. I appreciate it very much. We try and be as cooperative and as not top down and as welcoming to faculty and faculty input as possible. I think that you point out something interesting though. There is a real, and I know exactly why, but the fact is most of the discussion at the university revolves around on-campus students. And I understand why, but we're quickly entering a stage where half the students at the university at any given time are probably going to be online students. And so we do have a need to increase and improve communications about that population. And while we don't have any specific initiatives right now, we will certainly be doing so in the future. And again, a lot of this is not coming from EdPlus, but we work very closely with the Provost's office and the deans to improve that communication as well, and we'll continue to do so.
I might add that it has been a topic of conversation among the Provost leadership team in the last 6 months, because we really recognize that we have to make the focus the student, no matter the modality that the student is coming to us in. And so it is something that is definitely on our agenda. Mickey, I'm glad you raised the question, because it is something we've got to work on to not just have our dialogue about our on-campus students, which is an important constituency, but as Dean Regier rightly points out, the online volume of students is almost the same as the number that are coming to us on campus.
And by the way, if I could just point out, you should all be very proud of that. It took us 100+ years to get to a certain size with the on-campus population. But with the cooperation of all the colleges and the schools and the programs and the Provost's office and admissions and every place else, we are close to equaling that population of students and serving that number of students in about 10 or 12 years with online. And that's a remarkable achievement for a research-driven American public university.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time on that. And I know that there are a good handful of us online faculty who teach immersion and online. We're looking forward to just being more in the folds with the EdPlus kind of school and operations piece, and really just working to grow the programs. We love online education too, even though we are primarily maybe immersion faculty. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't forget that the only faculty we have are all of you. And plus has no faculty.
Good point.
And so all the programs are owned by all of you, and you know, we want to work to make sure that we're getting you the information you need to be effective in the job you have.
Thank you for the question, Senator Hernser. And are there any other questions from the downtown campus?
Well, I actually have a question about the distinction between the success coaches and the academic advisors, and for all of the important, clearly essential work that the success coaches are doing. Are there still plans, or are the students continuing to also receive academic advising focused on, you know, given by those advisors that really understand the degrees and electives and so forth? So thank
Yeah.
you.
They have to receive that advisement. Yeah, that's it's required. It's a requirement. Like I say, the role of the success coaches is in no way to eliminate or reduce the role of the academic advisors. It is to facilitate the success of the students, and you know, so we have you know, there is an interesting thing there, and which is online students tend to bunch. So for example, there is a huge enrollment push in July and August. And the only concern we have, for example, I wouldn't call it a concern because we've been doing a very good job of mitigating this in the last couple of years, is all the demand for the academic advising from the online students comes in at the same time. And so we've been working very closely with the academic advisors to make sure we can kind of stretch that out or develop some common answers that we can provide to students, especially transfer students in their first semester. But the role of the academic advisors is not displaced by the success coaches at all.
Thank you. It looks like we have no other questions.
Thank you so much. Let's move next to the Tempe, excuse me, first we're going to go to the Polytechnic campus. Penny, are there any questions from Poly?
Yes, there is. Actually, there's two. Chad, do you want to go ahead? Chad Kennedy has a question. If you'd like to go ahead.
Senator Kennedy, the floor is yours.
Sure. Hopefully my camera's there. I go. So I have a question, because I understand there's a difference in monetary incentive for teaching classes online versus on-site, and it's different for both those classes. Could you guys kind of tell us why that is, or how that works?
Well, there's not to the faculty member. The faculty member has a teaching assignment one way or another. The units are funded differently because when we started online, we had to figure out an incentive for to get units interested in it. I mean, now we all take online somewhat for granted as a learning modality, but I'm sure many of you will remember when people thought that was an anathema, and that, my God, the world's coming to hell in a handbasket. And so we had to find some early adopters, and some of the smart department chairs and the school directors realized that, well, if I could increase the volume of income that comes to the units, then we could have more flexibility. Well, that worked out pretty famously for most units in the sense that the flow of income has been substantial. If I could tell you of the units off the top of my head that are literally sitting on 7 figures. They're doing very well by it. And the last thing we could probably figure out on architecture now is to remove it, because people have so come to depend on that source of income. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Penny, were there any other questions?
Yes, I actually have a question. I'm in one of the programs that was from the very beginning, graphic information technology. And
We love you.
yes, well, I put the whole program online. I remember that well. But here's my question. One of the drivers has been the corporate partnerships. We have a tremendous amount of Starbucks, now Ubers. So I'm curious, who else might be on the horizon as far as potential corporate partnerships? I don't know if that's the right word, but agreement.
No. So One thing that we did do as a result of the Starbucks partnership and the Uber partnership is these things are very complicated to put together, and it took a lot of bandwidth. And so one thing that the university did was partner with the RISE Fund, which is a public benefits corporation investment company, to create a company called InStride. And the goal of InStride is to develop more of these corporate partnerships. So for example, Desert Financial was developed by InStride. Now, the ones that are interesting to us, frankly, are large ones. Without, there's nothing that is proprietary here. But for example, AT&T, Microsoft, companies of that size and stature are the ones that we're targeting, and we're working very closely with InStride. But again, the reason it makes sense is the beauty of the corporate partner is they bring the students to us, right? So they bring a large tranche of students to us, and that allows us, rather than concentrating on finding the students and all of that, that allows us to really focus on educating increasing numbers of students who don't have degrees and who need them in order to be successful in this country.
Thank you very much. There are no more questions from the Polytechnic campus.
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Let's move next to the Tempe campus. I know that in communicating with Greg, he said there are quite a few questions coming from Tempe. We'll start with 2 questions from the Tempe campus, and then we'll go to the West campus, and then time allowing, we will circle back to Tempe. Greg, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, yes. First, we have questions from Senator Wells.
Senator Wells, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I actually have 3 questions. So the first one's related to marketing. In this environment, there are a number of players in the online environment who are, we call predatory, including Ashford University, which was acquired by University of Arizona. And unfortunately, we don't do that. But there was a time when you could go pretty much anywhere in the country and you'd hear radio advertisements for ASU online. I remember visiting my daughter in Indiana and being sort of shocked a little bit by that. We've seen billboards, but I want to know, do we have some sense about how much we're spending on marketing in terms of recruiting students, and how do you track that?
Yeah, well, we have a partnership. Most of the direct channel marketing, and by the way, thank you very much for the question, Senator Wells. This also gets back to why we're pursuing corporate partnerships. But we have a partnership with Pearson. Pearson does what we refer to as direct channel marketing. That's the marketing that brings in the individual students. And that's the marketing, for example, when you hear radio ads in Indiana or in Boston or in Florida on NPR or other, Sirius, they're placing those, they're placing those ads. Now, in terms of how much, we pay Pearson for enrollment services, for a variety of services that includes marketing. So we don't separately break out, nor do they separately break out the amount of money that we're spending on marketing. So I don't have that answer. I can't tell you, for example, how much Pearson spends on marketing just for ASU students.
Okay, is it how much you give to Pearson public or not?
Mark, I don't know if it is.
Honestly, off top of my head, I don't know. The Pearson gets paid a fee, which is based on some percentage of tuition, and in return, they have to hit certain targets in terms of enrollment, and then that's how we built the model. The advantage to the institution was that there was no outlay of capital for the university because Pearson paid for all the outlay to do the promotion and marketing. And so that was an enormous advantage for the university to get launched. Every year we reassess that contract, and we have been making moves. Starbucks and all these corporate partnerships now are handled mostly by Ed Plus. There isn't a role anymore for Pearson in these. And so That's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 or 12,000 students that are no longer managed by Pearson. And so as we go along, we're looking to see what's the most efficient way for us to do this and still make sure that we can hit our desired enrollment targets.
Thanks. And my second question is, if I remember what it is, was related to discount rates. So I'm presuming our corporate partners don't pay the full tuition rate. They get some kind of discount. And then you don't have to tell me how much. I just was wondering if that's true. And then my question is, I know in general, ASU for their on-campus students, has tried to put forward a financial aid plan so that one's income does not affect one's ability to attend the institution. And we've been very successful in creating a much more diverse student body as a consequence. I don't know to what degree any of that translates to the online environment and their discount rate. So I don't know what you could comment on that.
Well, we scholarship students across the board, whether they're online students or face-to-face students. And so we have in any given year, probably somewhere between 11 and 12,000 students who are just on the face-to-face campuses who are not paying any tuition. We have the Obama Scholars Program, which provides for families who are earning approximately less than $45,000 a year. And those students qualify fully for the university, the 16 core courses, the 3.0 GPA. And then they qualify for 8 semesters of tuition, room, board, and books, and an opportunity to work on campus for 20 hours a week. So plus they're given a mentor. And so on the online space, we provide scholarship support. We provide the mentoring, if you like, in the online space is really in some ways the success coaches. And having gone to the Starbucks celebration of their graduates at commencement, I would say it's remarkable how much they talk about the quality of the learning from the faculty and the importance of the success coach in helping them be motivated to finish their degrees. And so it's a real combination of those kinds of things. But to the finances, we definitely provide financial aid. And so Starbucks students all get financial aid, and Uber students get financial aid, and they all do. So one way or another, they all are getting some kind of support from the university. About 75 to 80% of all ASU students get financial aid.
And I'll hold off for my third question unless there's, just to make sure there's time.
Thank you, Senator Wells. I appreciate that. Before Greg, I move around, let's do one more question from Tempe and then we'll go to West.
Okay. Yes, we have questions from Senator Marcos.
Senator Marcos, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. I have 2 quick questions. The first is going back to the idea of the success coaches. I was wondering if you could let us know, do the same coaches remain with the same student throughout their time at the university or in the program? And then are success coaches kind of hubbed in colleges or programs, right? So going back to kind of Mickey's question earlier, I also teach in online programs. If I wanted to reach out to a success coach to support a student, is that something that's possible?
Oh, we'd love that. So the answer to the first question is yes. The success coach stays with the student throughout their academic career. The other thing is, yes, success coaches are divided into disciplinary areas. So, it may be, we have a group that deal with humanities, we have a group that deal with engineering, we have a group that deal with life sciences or businesses. And if at any point you want to contact a success coach, that's a really good question, but what you can do is send me an email and I will get you in contact with the right success coach. Just tell me what class you're teaching and we can figure out what success coach it is. We probably need a little better communications mechanism rather than reaching out to me. But please, Senator Marcos, in the meantime, if you ever have any questions or you think a student needs help, please reach out to me.
So I act as a program coordinator for one of our online programs in the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College. And so I think that from a programmatic perspective, this would be a great resource to get up and going so that I can communicate with all of my instructors teaching in the online program. Hey, here are the success coaches that work with our students, right? So that when they have concerns.
That's a great idea.
So we could maybe work on that. And then the second question I was wondering is in terms of how online programs are actualized across the university, is there a hub of information where program coordinators or college level administrators who are either running online programs with EdPlus or considering doing so can get together and share ideas related to, for example, teacher and co-instructor loads, right? So for some of our courses in our online program, we run upwards of 650 students in one class, yep. Right? But then we have maybe a lead instructor with co-instructors, but I don't have a lot of access to how are other colleges or other programs figuring out what is the optimum number of instructors to students. Or I know EdPlus is we stick to like the 7.5 week for most of the time, but it would be great to have a hub or a conversation around how are programs enacting some of these pedagogies and what's working for them and what's under investigation.
I just have to say, I think that's a great suggestion. In the past, we've made at different times attempts to get program coordinators together and have discussions like that. I do have to say, whenever we're talking about scaling, we often pull in Meredith Thoth and say, Meredith, tell these people how to do it. Because she is a master at figuring that out. And Teachers College has been very, very forward thinking in figuring that out. But we don't have a formal mechanism at this point. For example, we get all the instructional designers in the university together 4 times a year. And not just the EdPlus ones, but those throughout the university to share best practices. I think we're probably, and we'll obviously discuss this with Mark, but I think we're probably at a point where it would be really good to get online program coordinators together to also share best practices. And we could certainly facilitate that. And it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea as well. Something we can definitely work on. I think this is just part of our maturation of learning how to operate in both these modalities and do it well. So thank you. That's a great idea.
Okay. I appreciate your guys' work and I look forward to those new opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Marcos, for that question. And if I may suggest, this year we do have in the Senate an ad hoc committee on digitally enhanced teaching and learning. And so this might be something that Lisa and the committee can discuss, is perhaps working with the Provost's office and with ASU Online in the development of some sort of an online faculty hub for this exchange of ideas. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Let's move next to the West Campus. Eduardo, are there questions for Dr. Regier from the West Campus?
Yes, Senator John Dalmas has a question.
Senator Dalmas, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Phil, I appreciate you taking the question. How are you?
I'm fine. Professor Dalmas, how are you?
Great. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
As you know, we are in the first run of the first classes in the accounting program that we've launched online. And I just wanted to revisit again, I think the Success Coach is great. And I just had a conversation earlier today with a student that's in Intermediate 1. And in chatting with her, she had completed her introductory course in accounting about 3.5 years ago. And I know your accounting home is or academic home is accounting, as you know, the longer that somebody goes with that, time between introductory and intermediate, it makes it difficult. And you had mentioned there's a lot of transfer students that we have coming into ASU Online. And I was wondering, how soon in the process is it that the student with that Success Coach marries up with an academic advisor? Because I think at that point, especially for a program like accounting, where that introductory level class is so critical, that first class that they hit, there's not much time to address any deficiency there. And I was just wondering I don't know if that's too specific, but I was just wondering when that happens.
And by the way, Senator Dalmas, that occurs in virtually every program. We have engineering students who are going into their second calculus course 6 years after they took their first.
Yeah.
And it is shock and they get creamed in it. And it's something that we're really working at. What we have to figure out are pathways into those courses that don't require them to retake the course. Because remember, online students pay by the course. And so it is a great deal of expense. And if we tell the student, well, you've already had your introductory accounting course, but it was a while back, you need to take it again. They'll say, I'm not paying $2,000 to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and I think I can dig my way out of this. And then they have difficulty doing it. And so what we're doing, for example, what we've done in some of the engineering courses is develop what we refer to as performance pathways, which is non-credit courses that allow students to ensure that they have the required background, refresher background that they need in order to be able to go into that first intermediate course or the first calculus course after pre-calculus when they've been away for a
We've
while.
had that gap.
And we need to do that more aggressively, particularly with the professional and technical programs.
Just to give you some insight, we negotiated with Wiley for the textbook with Kiso that we're using, that we do have that type of material available to the students online. It would just be from a sequencing standpoint to have them, take advantage of that prior to coming into that first class. So that's why I was just trying to figure out where the mesh point is so we could try to make that type of adjustment.
And it could be something that we could do actually after the student is enrolled, but before they're taking their first class, if they have time.
Yeah, right.
Because oftentimes between enrollment and the first class is 2 weeks. So
true. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the question.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Senator Dalmas. Eduardo, any other questions from West?
Sure, if we have time, I just have one quick question. I've been trying to think the answer and I just can't think of it. Are online programs routed through CAPCing the same way that on-ground programs are, or is there a different system of review?
There's no difference. I mean, a program is a program, and once Senate has approved the program, it can be delivered in any of the modalities the university has. We're not changing curriculum to put something up online. And if someone proposes a degree program that is going to be put up online first, meaning it doesn't necessarily plan to offer it face-to-face in the near term, it still goes through CAPCing and does everything else that any other program would do.
All right, thank you.
Also has to go to the Board of Regents, just like anything else.
Okay.
There's no different process.
All right, thank you.
Okay, in the interest of time, let's take one more question from the Tempe campus. And I will ask for the senators who do have questions for Dr. Regehr, if you wouldn't mind, please putting them into writing and sending them either to me or to your campus president, and we will go ahead and forward them. If that's okay with you, Dr. Regehr, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes. No, that would be great. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much. Greg, we'll take one more question from Tempe.
All right, next one in line is Senator Haglund.
Senator Haglund, the floor is yours.
I have a question about master's programs that are online. We are considering putting our master's program in justice studies online. And I've been talking to some other folks who have been running programs in similar departments that are online. And I was a little bit surprised to find out that all of the faculty in some of those programs are non-tenure eligible. And I was curious about that because I can't imagine our program being taught by purely non-tenure eligible folks. And I assume that they all have to have a PhD at least, but I just wonder how you manage that, if you do, or is it up to the units? And then the second question is, assuming somebody does want to put their degree online and they don't have all of that extra staff to do it, is there something built into the funding model that could allow for the hiring of faculty associates or others to teach classes with the assumption that those classes would be filling and bringing in revenue?
So I'll be glad to speak to the qualification issue. The units decide who teaches, not us. So we don't have any role in determining who is assigned to teach any particular course. And we have at the university about think it's, my numbers may be off a little bit, but around 1,700 non-tenure eligible faculty who are as critical to this institution as are about 2,000 tenure line faculty. We couldn't run the institution without them. In fact, if you look at the Edson College of Nursing, it's probably 80% non-tenure track because clinical faculty are what are dominantly needed. That's also true in a lot of other schools and units where clinical faculty are absolutely the right fit for what they need to teach. And so, you know, I don't worry about that. I worry about having more full-time faculty because I think it's important there be continuity and that people be here. And when we have to depend on more and more faculty associates, I don't think the students get the same continuity that they would. It doesn't mean we shouldn't use faculty associates because they bring a different richness to the experience for students, but I don't think I want to increase that dependency to a greater degree. It's a balance, but the determination of who's actually teaching is made by the department chair or the school director or appropriate associate or assistant dean who might be responsible for those particular units. With respect to funding, usually the units have figured out how to do this in terms of getting launched. So we don't get requests like you're asking. Maybe there may be a lot of back and forth between the school director and the dean, but they're not sharing them with me. Somehow they've managed to work it out. Now they do, you know, the deans do this just like I do. I mean, you often commit things not knowing whether you have, well, like hiring is a good example. This year we've been a little bit more conservative, but you know, one year I think we had about 150 positions I knew we could pay for, and we authorized searching for 262. Now, we would have found the money if we'd been that bloody successful. That would have been absolutely marvelous. But we only ended up hiring about 135 faculty. And I know that by history that we tend to hire about 60% of what we advertise. And so deans also know that if they're going to get paid from online, that they can make certain judgments. And they get paid twice a year. They get paid, or 3 times after each semester. So they get it after fall, they get it after spring, and they get it after summer. So they don't have to depend on a fiscal year kind of allocation, and they can see how things are going and make better judgments. And most of them have enough capacity to float a unit for 25 or 30,000 bucks to get a few courses up and running to get the degree launched. I would be surprised to have a dean use up their small p political capital to come to me and ask for $25,000 to get something launched, because I know what their budgets look like better than me.
That was a complete answer. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Haglund. Dr. Regier, I want to thank you so much for making time to join the University Senate this afternoon and to provide the robust amount of information that you did, and also for making yourself available to take questions from the university senators. And I will say there were some great suggestions that came out of this conversation. And again, as a reminder to other senators who did have questions remaining, please send them to your campus president, and you can also copy me on that message and we'll forward them to Dr. Regier. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And also Dr. Searle, thank you for being able to chime in and provide some context and answers to those questions as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We will now move on to item number 8 on the agenda. So fortunately, we have no unfinished business to discuss, so we will move on to agenda item number 9. We have some first reads to prepare you for our March meeting. These items are for informational purposes only, although senators may seek clarification. Full discussion on these motions is reserved for our next meeting, which will be on March 1st. Denise Bodman, CAPC Chair, will inform you of these upcoming CAPC curricular proposals. Denise, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm going to refer all senators to the 9 motions that are written on today's agenda. These are coming to the Curricular and Academic Program Committee, CAPC, this Thursday. They include the establishment of 4 graduate degrees, 1 undergraduate degree, 2 graduate certificates, a certificate name change, and a transfer of a degree from life sciences to psychology. So please read them. If you have any comments or any concerns, contact me or President Levinson before our CAPC meeting, which will be this Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. If you have any questions or concerns, again, as you review these proposals, please contact Denise or myself before the CAPC meeting, which takes place this Thursday morning. We will now move on to second reads. So these are motions that are second reads and action items. The new course proposals were distributed to you via email on January 19th and are presented to you as a consent agenda. Is there a request for any of these courses to be removed from the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing no request, we will vote on the consent agenda.
Ending the poll. Motion passes with 103 votes.
Thank you, Maria. The motion has passed. CAPC has 3 motions related to curricular proposals for your consideration and brought as a consent agenda. Denise, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks again. Last month, CAPC met and we reviewed and passed the following 3 motions. Motion 2021-10, request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Historical, Philosophical, and Religious Studies for the disestablishment of an undergraduate certificate. Oh, okay. Everything disappeared on my page here. Motion 20, there we go. Motion 2111, request from the College of Health Solutions for the disestablishment of an undergraduate certificate. And motion 2021-12, request from the Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions, School of Public Affairs for the disestablishment of an undergraduate degree. These are now brought as a consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Is there a request to remove any of the CAPC motions from the consent agenda? Hearing none, we will vote on the consent agenda.
Here's the poll, and that was me trying to be helpful, Denise.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Okay, ending the poll. Motion passes with 102 votes.
Thank you, Maria. Last month, we had a first read for a motion brought by Senator Mary Jane Parmentier. She is chair of the Senate Personnel Committee. Today, Senator Parmentier will bring the motion forward for your consideration. Mary Jane, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Simi. So the motion reads, addition of a sentence to ACD 51001 on outside business arrangements to not exceed 312 hours per academic year for those on academic year contracts, or 384 hours for those on fiscal year contracts. The additional sentence that we would add would read, for faculty in certain circumstances, these hours might be exceeded per prior approval by the provost.
Thank you. The motion has been read. Because this motion comes from a committee, a second is not necessary. So the floor is now open for discussion. Any comments or discussion on this motion? All right, hearing no comments or discussion, we will now vote for the motion.
Ending the poll. Motion passes with 92 votes, 1 no, and 11 abstains.
And that concludes our business portion of the meeting. We will now hear reports from 3 committees. We'll start with Nicole Blaze. She is chair of the Committee on Committees. Nicole?
Thanks, Amin. Maria, was I able to share my screen, or do you want to share the?
You can share it. I just gave you access.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Nicole Nolan. I'm in the College of Health Solutions, and I wanted to provide a brief update on our Faculty Senate elections. Myself and the other members of the Committee on Committee and campus presidents worked over the end of the fall semester and into the semester on seeking nominees. Many of you filled out the nomination survey, and I appreciate you doing so. We really are in a good position. As a reminder, these elections are for campus president-elects, for the 2 grievance committees for tenured faculty, which I'll cover in a minute, and then the academic professionals grievance committee. And we seek nominations from senators and from all of the units across campus. And our goal is to have these elections run mid-March. And always want to make sure that the ballots have contested ballots. Each of the positions would have more candidates on the ballot than we have positions available for a contested election. So we're in good shape, but we still have a bit of work to do. So I just want to provide a brief update of where we are. So for the campus president-elect, hopefully on my screen, what you're seeing is each of the 4 campuses. For campus president-elect, we need one campus president-elect. For all of the campuses, we have at least 1 nominee, if not multiple. West and Poly are the only campuses where we at least need 1, maybe 2 more to have a contested ballot. So downtown Tempe have a full ballot. West and Poly, we still need 1 or 2 more. For CAFT, so Committee on Academic Freedom and Tenure, so the people who are on this committee would need to be tenured and not be on sabbatical during their 3-year term. We have no vacancies at Poly or Tempe. We have 1 at West and 2 at downtown. As you can see, West is complete. We got 3 confirmed nominees, so there's nothing left to do there. But for downtown, we have 1 nominee and we need 3 or 4 more to have a contested ballot. Then we have the Governance Grievance Committee. No vacancies for West, Poly, or downtown, and 2 for Tempe. We have 2 confirmed nominees, but for a contested ballot, we need 1 or 2 more nominations. And then lastly, our Academic Professional Grievance Committee. For academic professionals, vacancies can be filled by any campus. We have 5 vacancies because of normal rotation off plus some retirements that are impacting the committee. We have 2 confirmed nominees and 2 pending nominations where I've sent out the email asking to confirm the nomination, but haven't heard back yet, but I'm hopeful that I will. Depending on those nominations and the ones that are pending, we might need 2 to 4 more academic professional nominees, again, from any of our campuses. So what do we need? What do I need from all of you? So obviously I'm working with our other committee members. The Committee on Committee is doing targeted emails, trying to find nominees for campus president-elects in our grievance committees. So remember that you can review any of our nomination categories for the elections on our Senate website. Campus president-elects serve a 3-year term. Need to be available most Monday afternoons for Senate-related meetings. CAPT and GGC committees need to be tenured and not on sabbatical during their 3-year term, and they meet as needed based on the number of grievances that are occurring in that given year. Same thing goes for Academic Professional Grievance Committee. They meet as needed. It's just they have to be academic professionals and they don't have to be from a particular campus. They can be from any. So what I'm asking all of you to do as senators is to, if you haven't already sent the nomination survey, you can ignore the survey that was sent out and just directly email me with nominations. I can talk to Maria about how to get out the what positions we have left based on the presentation, if you didn't write all of that down. But we do need help finding nominees and sending emails to your academic units, seeking people that you think might be good in these positions, and then sending them along to me as soon as you can would be appreciated. Any questions, if you're not quite sure how to answer questions someone might have about the committees, can be passed along to myself or your campus president. We have until mid-March. That is when our elections are set to run, so we have time, but we want to continue to work on this. So my hope is that through our committee work, plus all of you as senators helping, that we will have a full, robust ballot by the time mid-March rolls around. And that is it. I'll stop my share.
Thank you, Nicole. Are there any questions for Nicole? All right. Our next report is from the Research and Creative Activities Committee. I'll turn it over to Chair Senator David Saylor. Dr. Saylor?
All right, thank you, Samin. Hopefully I can share my screen as well. Maria?
Here, 1 second. I did not do you.
While Maria's pulling that up, David, what is the background of your picture? Are those solar panels?
Oh, that's the view outside my window at my office. So yeah, that's on top of 10th Street parking garage, looking north out of Core Hall.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I've been alternating backgrounds. I didn't want you to see the dog bouncing around on the sofa behind me, so. Okay, it looks like.
Access now, yes.
It looks like I can share now. I just need to find the actual screen number 1. There we go. All right, so hopefully you're seeing the table of members of our committee. Okay, fantastic. So I'm Dave Saylor. I'm chairing the Research and Creative Activities Committee this year. This list shows who's on the committee and the representation across campuses. Our committee has met a total of 4 times this academic year so far, and we're actually meeting later this week for our 5th time. Our focus is really on 2 specific projects, but before I dive into those projects, let me just, for anyone who's not familiar with our committee, just quickly summarize the charge of our committee. So as the name suggests, we focus on matters concerning research and creative activities. And specifically, we review policies in the ASU research manual and faculty academic professional topics brought to us by the provost, Knowledge Enterprise, and by others in the ASU Senate. And so we're always welcoming new RFCs, new requests for consultation. But getting into the 2 consultations that we're dealing with this year, both of them are carryovers from last year. And so we are hopeful that we will have a resolution on both of these this year. Our committee is working on both RFC 147, which is an RFC that seeks to establish a financial support fund for open access publishing. So this was brought to us a few years ago, and we've had extensive conversations with the library and with others on campus, and there's a great deal of interest. And I think consistent with the ASU charter, there's a real need to not just support open access, but to recognize its value both to the faculty at ASU in terms of having resources to get your publications out there, and also for the general public globally for just having access despite having resources. So ASU and all of our 15 ABOR approved university peers each have some sort of policy supporting open access in general and encouraging authors to publish open access either in open access journals or by self-archiving in a local repository. So you can do that at ASU, especially for those of us who have projects that mandate open access publishing. Several of our peer institutions have established funds to make it easier for faculty, especially those in disciplines that garner less research support, to publish in open access. So for example, Florida State, University of Maryland, and Penn State all have a fund that they've established to offset the cost of publication, either partially or fully covering open access charges. And there was a recent survey, I think it was a few years ago now actually, but they found about 60 US universities that had some form of open access fund through the university. So these are institutions like Boston College, Carnegie Mellon, Colorado State, Columbia, Cornell, Harvard, MIT, and so forth. And so they've all established these funds. They're carefully monitored funds that typically they're on the order of $30,000 to $50,000 a year. And they're administered usually through the Provost's office, the Office of Research, or through enhanced library budgets. And I know that's a challenge at ASU in terms of the library budget. But what our committee is doing is based on our research and our collaborations and discussions with the library, we're gathering data on best practices and developing a proposal for the phased establishment of a fund here at ASU that will probably involve at least a proposal for an initial pilot funding at a more modest level, perhaps shared from the Knowledge Enterprise and the Provost's office, with a long-term vision of establishing a philanthropic fund through the ASU Foundation. So we're currently working on a draft proposal, and we're gathering, if you will, champions across the university who would be in support of that as we try to move that proposal forward. Our second RFC we've made less progress on. It's RFC 149, and it asks us to consider establishing a policy related to the ethics of utilizing illegally obtained data. So this actually came to us from Provost Searle a few years ago. It'd be great if we could reconcile this before his departure. There's actually very little in the way of models of such policies at other universities, but we have found some useful examples and recommendations from the published research on the topic. And so we're currently seeking input through discussions with Office of General Counsel and the Research Integrity Office to try to develop a better foundation of understanding, before we try to move forward with any specific recommendations. So that's the summary from our committee. We, of course, always would welcome input from other senators. If you have any interest in commenting or contributing to these issues, you can contact me in my email.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. If you have are there any questions for Dave Saylor at this time? No? Okay. All right, we have one final report, and this is from the Digitally Enhanced Teaching and Learning Ad Hoc Committee. I will turn it over to Chair Lisa Kammerlocker. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for meeting so diligently with your group, Lisa. I know that, not having a very clear charge at the beginning of the semester, you've really done a great job of leading this group and bringing a lot of important issues to the forefront for discussion.
Thank you so much, Samin. So here is our report for today. In case you don't know who is on our group, it's well represented from across the university. And then we have key people, and I have to say it has been wonderful to have Kyle Bowen, Julie Greenwood, and Saquant on this group, because they've really helped fill in a lot of gaps that our group didn't necessarily know about, and are a great source of information. So today we're going to talk about the Pearson pilot that occurred late last fall, and some early outcomes and how others can sign up. Some things, and this will probably be a very routine thing we do when we have reports, is things you need to know and pass on to your colleagues. The Yellow Dig transition, some data security matters, some issues about cheater sites, and a project we've been working on called Top 10 Learning Technologies. and a way that you can send comments to us at any time if you wish. So the next few slides are from Julie Greenwood from Ed Plus, and you probably recall a call for people to participate in a Pearson pilot in the fall, and so they had 5 courses in the fall, and they were able to help save, whoops, sorry about that. Let's see. Anyone have a quick idea about how I go backwards? Well, bottom line, okay, I know the
Hit
numbers.
backspace.
I know the numbers off the top of my head. About 5 classes in the fall, and saved about $7,000 for students. This is both e-text and courseware as we go along. So you'll see that right now we're in spring A, and they're working on a courseware pilot, primarily e-text up to now. And by spring B, they'll be doing courseware and e-text for all I and O courses. And for the summer, it looks like there'll be a complete rollout. So just so you know, there's an opportunity with the people who are participating in spring A and B to save nearly $1 million in costs for our students. That is incredible. So if you would like to participate, you can look on this graphic, but I put it on a different slide just so it's easy to see. They have about 500 e-texts at this point, and they're going to be adding all the time. So be sure to keep going back to that list and see if there's something that works for a course you may be teaching. So the opt-in deadline for summer is March 15th, and then the opt-in for the fall is April 15th. And moving on, so these are the need to know things. At least one of us attends the ITAC meetings, and this is all the instructional technologists and the people who manage technology in different units all over the university. And so Ruby Wijesuria is on that group, and a variety of other people. And so they help kind of identify issues. It may be an issue that comes up from faculty. It might be an issue that comes up from people who have had to engage with some technology and it's not working right. They report on new technologies that are coming, etc. So one of the changes that's happening is Yellow Dig has a newer version called Yellow Dig Engage. And so they're hoping that by the end of this semester that people will stop using the classic version and be moving into Engage. And so I would try to get that transition done by end of spring. We've had some conversation about data security, and Donna Kidwell, I don't know if you know her. She is the new Chief Information Security and Digital Trust Officer, and last week she held her first discussion. She sent an open invitation, and I'm sure there's going to be more. And so look for those. There's been a little bit of confusion, and so I told the ITAC folks I would let everybody know that, you know, security reviews protect both the student and the faculty. And we can't just say that software is recommended and that that covers us. It doesn't cover us. We're responsible, and if there's a data breach, and so we need to protect against data breaches. So the software needs to go through, if we need our students to use software, it does need to go through a security review. I don't know if there's something in the chat. I need,
No, you're good, Lisa.
okay. I can put in the chat that the link to the Pearson, but this presentation should also be up soon. We had a request the last time we did a report at the end of October that we create a top 10 learning technologies list. And so Penny Dolan has just been amazing in developing this. And she also engaged Mary Loader, who is at Ed Plus. She's an instructional designer that works with Penny's area, and she's fabulous as well. And so very soon, we will be putting this on the Senate website. And just to tell you or show you the kind of information you can find when you use that top 10 list, there's going to be a quick description that, you know, it's concise, but enough information that you know. And then the critical links, tutorials on how to use it, how to, if there's links that are very helpful, like the using Spark in higher education, etc. So there'll be some foundational information. It will be something people can use very quickly and then explore more deeply if they wish.
Can I just put two
Yes, please do.
So what we're also doing, and Mary's been fantastic with this, is we're going to develop like a short little quiz, kind of like those quizzes you take if you want to find out what should I do as a career kind of concept. It's like, what am I trying to do educationally and pedagogically? And depending on how you answer the questions, a selection will be presented. Well, if that's what you're trying to do, these technologies may be the ones you want to look at. Just to sort of clean it up a bit, because there's so much out there. So we're working on that.
Thank you. So a recommender tool to go along with this. That's really great. So we have a form that we developed in late October, and my apologies, there's been a few questions on there. And I've started to send some responses. But this forum is a place where if you have a question, you have a comment about learning technologies, you're wondering, you know, what could we have to solve this issue in the classroom? What could we have that helps me do this kind of pedagogy? Whatever kinds of questions you have, you know, we have people who are in good places throughout ASU, and we will try to get things answered. So for instance, one person had a question about the use of Zoom and how difficult it is to get students to show their faces on Zoom. And so I took that to Mary Loader, an instructional designer, because I know how great she is, and got her point of view. And I've shared that with the person. And then my committee will also be looking at it, and we're talking over email right now about how this might be, UTO had started some training that was kind of faculty conversations, and I think this is a brilliant topic for that. So we've been chatting a little bit about that. So because one person had this question, now we have some potential training and we're having broader conversations. And so please, fill out the form if you like. And so that's it for us.
Thank you, Lisa. And I will agree with you. I think that this is how we're able to, bring university-wide initiatives kind of to the forefront. It was a suggestion that was brought up through the Senate to have peer-to-peer, these faculty conversations so that faculty can learn from each other what they're doing that's interesting and innovative in the classroom. And Suquant took that, and the faculty conversations was then developed. So it was really exciting to see that come to fruition. Are there any questions for Lisa or the DETL ad hoc committee?
Hi, this is Ann Sebring from the downtown campus. I have a question from Maureen McCoy regarding going back to the slide on the cheating websites.
Hi, Lisa. We just kind of skipped past that one, and I know it's okay. I've heard more students than ever saying that they're just going to these websites because their professors never change their quizzes and tests, and they just use those. And they're quite open about it, which is a little scary. So I'd love to see that slide.
Did I put it back? Can you see it?
You did. You know what we'll do is we will include Lisa's slideshow on the Senate website, and then you'll be able to access all of those slides because each slide had a lot of information on it.
Great.
Would that suffice?
So I'll just take 1 minute. So this is something that came out of ITAC, and they are very concerned about this. And Ruvi has made an effort to communicate with the University Council, legal counsel so far. But they're really interested in taking this issue as far as possible, whether it's the Board of Regents, whether it's engaging with other institutions across Arizona. And so this is just kind of a beginning. And we said, I said I would bring it up, and they're developing websites that facilitate student cheating list, and it's linked in here as well. And they're encouraging faculty to report these sites to your academic integrity officer.
Yeah, and I would love to add something to this. I have 2 daughters who attend ASU. And so I hear from them how frustrating it is to be a student who does not cheat. And they have classes where they'll get, a low grade on an exam and people are getting 100s on them because they're cheating. So what I've done this semester is I've actually put on my syllabus that I'm on those sites. If I catch anybody on those sites, I report it. You're going to irritate me because I have to take all those questions down. I'll try to find out who you are, and it's plagiarism. So it seems like my students were like, ooh, when I did that. But yeah, it's something that I think our good students are just really, really frustrated with, seeing students getting these really high scores when they're just, they have all sorts. It's crazy. So if you want to talk to me, I can tell you some of the crazy stories I've heard. Wow. How much work they go through to cheat. They could have studied. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. I know that there are people very interested in affecting this in some way. I'm not sure how it's all going to come down, but yes, there's definitely interest in trying to reduce the amount of access students have to this.
Thank you for that information. It is remarkable, the lengths and the time spent to try to figure out how to cheat. They could have just been studying.
Yeah, one of them, I was told in one class, and I won't say which, But my daughter was working with a student from Barrett who has a photographic memory, and he was getting C's. And they found out that people, there's a video camera, but people had a video camera on the screen so that they could then take all the questions down, put them in a file alphabetically. And since kids can use their notes, they can just look them up. And I was just like, wow, that is crazy. And some of them even have to pay for these things. So I've been shocked to learn the extent of it as a parent, putting my parent hat on for a change.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much. And I see that Maria has included a link to Lisa's presentation in the chat, and we'll also make it available on the Senate website. All right, we will now move into the open forum segment of our meeting. And as I open up the floor, I would also like to acknowledge that February is when we celebrate Black History Month. And last week, ASU named the Sidney Poitier New American Film School. So that is apt and timely. I don't know if you were able to watch that naming ceremony, but it was really very nice. And ASU is very much inspired by the values embodied by this trailblazing actor and filmmaker. Sidney Poitier's commitment to social purpose and outcomes and his perseverance toward excellence is unparalleled. He's known for fighting for inclusion in the film industry. And there's a very nice article on the ASU homepage that includes a slideshow of the naming ceremony. And also, if you have students who are interested in engaging with different events, EOS is hosting a series of talks and different types of events to celebrate Black History Month as well. So with that, I will open up the floor for the open forum. This is your opportunity to ask questions, make statements, or present topics of interest to the Senate. We won't take any action on these, but the floor is open for this type of discussion.
Samin, I received a question from Senator David Siroki. He wants to know when will the freeze on travel and conferences funds be changed?
That is an excellent question. Unfortunately, I have not heard any information or an update on that. Maria, I'm going to ask you to please send that to me through an email so I can make sure that I get the senator's name correctly, so I can follow up and provide information back.
Will do.
Thank you. Anything else for the open forum?
Yes, I have some comments or statements from Tempe.
Yes. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Okay, the first is Senator Zelli would like to speak.
Wonderful. Senator Zelli, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, hello. Thank you. I'm actually speaking as the newly appointed liaison with the student governments. And so I've met with some of the leaders of the undergraduate and graduate student governments at the known as the ASASU, the Associated Students of ASU. And I've promised them, this is a new position to me, so I'm still kind of learning how this is going to work, but there were 3 issues that they asked me to convey to our faculty senate. I've created a handout, which I'll send to Maria, that can be made available with relevant links and information in it. First of all, every year the Council of Presidents creates a list of priorities that sort of enumerates their list of advocacy items that they work on every year. So the 2020-2021 priorities are in fact posted. They center around 3 main themes this year: success, access, and diversity. And those priorities are on their website, and there's going to be a link in the document that I'll provide for Maria, so that faculty who are interested can find out a little bit about what they're working on. Second, the Graduate and Professional Student Association, GPSA, has created a Child Care Subsidy Expansion Committee. Their goal is to find ways to improve resources for students who are parenting while pursuing an education at ASU. They've gotten some traction on this initiative, and the student leaders are very interested in partnering with faculty who have common interests in childcare needs. So they've reached out to ask if anybody would be interested in working with them on this. And then finally, the Centennial Professorship Award. It's an award that recognizes faculty on all ASU campuses who are engaged in scholarship, emerging leadership, dedication to community service, and enrichment of students' academic experience. And there are 3 winners who will receive $5,000 cash prizes and $5,000 in classroom funds. And applications are open through February 15th. And again, more information will be available in the handout. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Senator Zelli, and I appreciate your willingness to serve as the Senate liaison to the ASASU organizations. So again, if you are interested in working with the Graduate Professional Student Organization on this issue of childcare and expanding their subsidies, please reach out to Senator Zelli and she will be able to forward that information on. And consider either self-nominating or nominating one of your peers for the Centennial Professorship Awards as well. That's very exciting.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. I see how somebody sent me a chat stating that in Bio 201, over 20 students were failed in one class for cheating. So that's very interesting. So good to know that, yes, some faculty are definitely on top of that. Any other comments or items for discussion in the open forum?
Yes, we have a couple more from Tempe. Senator Wells would like to speak.
All right, Senator Wells.
Yeah, I want to provide some context. Earlier, Samin had mentioned the university metrics, such as related to the Ira Fulton and the number of bachelor's degrees and the gap between the 6-year graduation grade of Pell recipients. The context of that, as I understand it, because I'm involved in a group that's working related to the state budget, is that you may recall about 3 years ago or so, the regions had established this goal of having the state fund half the cost of resident students. That's been an abysmal failure. The legislature has completely failed to do that. That would be about $250 million, of which at least 100+ million would go to ASU. So essentially, my understanding is that the universities have dropped their expectations, even though we have a very flush budget this year. And the goal is for the legislature to fund these particular metrics. For me, it's very disappointing that the legislature is more interested in cutting taxes than investing in our universities. And I would encourage people to emphasize that to their elected representatives, because they currently want to cut taxes permanently by at least $200 million and at least one time by $250 million.
Thank you for providing that additional context, Senator Wells. I appreciate that. Anything else from the Tempe campus, Greg? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, Senator Vandermeer would like to speak.
Senator Vandermeer, the floor is yours.
I was struck by the 3 goals for the university that the provost talked about, and I was wondering whether the UAC or in some other form the Senate had direct input into deciding and framing those goals.
Thank you for that question. And I can say that the UAC was not involved in the development of those goals. I assume you're talking about the proposed ASU institutional metrics that I discussed that ASU is working with ABOR. No, and this was the first that I had heard about this, honestly, was when I participated in the meeting. Was to learn about these goals specifically. But this is going to be an agenda item that the UAC will discuss at our next meeting. So I appreciate that you did bring that up, because this was not brought to the attention of the Senate nor the UAC.
And so I think one is the question of the goals themselves, but obviously the most important thing is faculty participation in establishing those. So I hope you have a good discussion.
Thank you very much. And I will provide an update on that at the next Senate meeting. Any other comments or discussions, items for discussion? No?
All
right.
set.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, look at that. We have 5 whole minutes to spare. Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you all for your presence and for participating in this Senate meeting. I encourage you to share our work that we do here in the Senate with the faculty in your units and to engage your colleagues in faculty governance. So if there's no objection, we will adjourn this meeting. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you and have a great afternoon, everybody.